We are live.
We are live. It is a feel good. We're actually 1 minute early.
Hey.
We are 1 minute. I tell you what, Smith is on the ball. Smith's my producer, by the way. Feel Good Friday with me, Paul Sullivan. It's brought to you by our buddy and he's our boss too, I guess. He's our buddy and our boss. He's our buddy boss, our boss buddy, whatever you want to call him. Billy W. Merritt presents Feel Good Friday every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, or today 10:59 Eastern time. And then, of course, 10 o'clock Central. So let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. So I'm going to stand up for a second. So I've got a different Cubs shirt on, thanks to my mom, who's already, she's already logged on. She's already saying good morning. So good morning, my mom. Good morning to my mom. But I want to show my new shirt. She got this for me probably a couple months ago, but I haven't worn it on the show yet. So I'm going to stand up for a second so you can take a look at it. Can you read that?
Yes.
What's it say?
Damn right, I am a Chicago Cubs fan now and forever.
That's right. So I thought, you know what? This is absolutely the week, because last week I was still kind of ticked off because they unloaded. They got rid of all my players that I was really disappointed with, all the core players. So I don't want to say we have a team of nobodies, because we still have a few, but this shirt right here, damn right, I'm a Cubs fan now and forever, and I will be. So hey, I don't like the fact that we lost some players, but I'm always going to be a Cubs fan. So I thought this was a very fitting T-shirt. By the way, I wanted to bring up, in case you've been in a cave for the last 5 years, the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. I'm just saying.
Here we go again.
I wanted to at least, feel good. So I wanted to talk about when they won the World Series. But in all seriousness, I was thinking about this, not just about the Cubs, but a week or so ago, we were talking about, tomorrow's not promised, and, talk the talk and walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk, and, live your life, go do things, all that kind of stuff. Don't wait, because tomorrow's not promised. So I was thinking about that. And, even though a lot of us, I've said I'm a complainer. I am, bitcher, whatever you want to call it. I do, I kind of just get it off my chest, and then I move on, and then I'm good. So I'm a venter. Maybe that's a polite way of saying it, a venter. Smith, are you a venter at all?
I don't think I am.
I was just going to say, I'm like, if you were going to say yes, I was going to say you're a liar too.
I just let it all explode on the inside.
On the inside. He's an internal combustion engine is what he is. But yeah, I kind of just, blow it out of the water, just vent, get it off my chest, if you will. And then I move on. So, but I started thinking about it going, there are so many things that so many of us have to be thankful for. And even though I jokingly say, my Cubs won the World Series, no, I'm not kidding. They did win. Hey, did I tell you that? Did I tell you that the Cubs won the World Series in 2016? But even though I was kind of joking around about that, I really meant it, to go, hey, there are things that have happened to us in our lives, things that are still going to come and happen to us in our lives that we really should be thankful for. So even though it's not Thanksgiving, don't you love that, Smith, how it's like everybody, like one day a year, people are like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. I guess I'll be thankful, So, what are some things that you have to be thankful for, Smith? Put you on the spot.
Oh, man. Well, my upbringing, like, I've been surrounded by family who have always been into music. Not that it's always been obviously the type of music that I personally like, but
right.
I probably never would have touched a keyboard if not for my mom. So I'm always thankful for that. So
your mom, she gets all the credit for who you are today. at least a large majority. No, she was a big influence in your life. Of course, my mom was, I think all your family and friends, people who you're around, even your coworkers, even people that you don't really like, affect you, in some way, shape, or form. Think about the people who, hey, Robert Brooker, good morning. Terry Comas-Gerchek, she's one of my high school classmates. Terry, she made it live today. She usually watches on repeat, on replay. So thanks for joining the show. So I'm like, all right, I'll bring up Terry since she chimed in. Terry, one of my high school friends, she absolutely affected who I am today. She's been a really good friend for a long time. I have quite a few high school friends that I've actually stayed close with, even though I don't see them very often and we don't really talk all that much. It's one of those where it's like, when you see them again, it's just like old times. It just clicks. So certainly thankful for my upbringing and my high school friends and my family. And did I mention the Cubs won the World Series in 2016, Sean? Smith. I call him Sean half the show. I call him Smith part of the other show. His real name's Sean, but he goes by Smith like online. He's that alter ego kind of thing. So I don't know what that is.
Got it.
Well, how did you come up with that, by the way? The Smith. Was there a connection? Was there a reason for that?
Funny enough, it was mostly just that I didn't want like my full name connected to like the silly anime analysis and memes and stuff like that. So, but then when you go to Facebook and you're like, okay, I'm going to be Smith. Like that's the character Smith. Mm-hmm. Well, Facebook won't let you have just one name. So I made it Smith.
Facebook won't let you have just one name?
No, apparently not.
So, I mean, like, what about Madonna? Madonna, she has two names on. Is she Madonna on Facebook?
That's a good question. I kind of want to look that up now.
Is it Cher?
Oh, boy.
Bono. I mean, think about it. Maybe you started a trend. Who knows? Maybe they'll be considered Bono and Madonna and Cher from now on. You started it with Smith. I was just curious about that. But Charlie Mizell, good morning. He said at least the Cubs did win in 2016. The Braves, they haven't won since 95. Hey, but they have won. I mean, that's the thing. Think about some of these teams out there that have never won. Or it's been like, again, we were the lovable losers, and we're probably going to be lovable losers for a while now because we unloaded all of our good players. But we hadn't won in 108 years or something like that. I mean, well over 100 years. So think about it. So that's why, I kind of decided, hey, I was thankful that, I was alive. They won it while I was alive. And I have to admit, even though my 20s and 30s, I probably would have partied harder if they would have won it in my 20s and 30s. I really enjoyed it when they won it in my 40s. I did. I had a really good time. Kim Ledbetter, good morning to you. And it is a great morning. Frankie, Captain USA, with us this morning saying we got an awesome team. Frankie's part of that awesome team too, by the way. He's at Enterprise. Is he an Enterprise? Enterprise Key at the end of the month. That's right. He was posting that. He's going to be out at Enterprise Key, a part of our Billy Merritt marketing crew, if you will, our extended family. See, we have, friends, family, we have extended family, all that kind of stuff. Robert Brooker, apparently I missed the mention earlier, said that the Blue Jays won. I saw it. I just didn't mention it. But did I mention the Cubs won in 2016? No, but the Blue Jays did win. He said with the power of beer, Labatt's, that was poured in the dough to hire a great lineup. So Labatt's, I haven't had that in forever. That's an unusual beer too, Labatt's. And speaking of, hey, that's a very good segue. Robert, great idea. How about our beer of the week? Our beer recommendation of the week. Remember last week, we went off track a little bit. We did it for Smith. I said I was being a giver.
I appreciate it.
So we went with the Angry Orchard. And that was good too. The crisp apple. I have to say it was good. So this one, I don't know if anyone has heard of this. I truly, like, anybody that's watching, if you've heard of this, then, give us a comment and say, yes, I've heard of it, or yes, I've had it. If anybody's had this, I'll be really impressed. This is Dogfish Head. That's the brand. I know, a little unusual. Dogfish Head Mango Smoothie. And that's SMOOVIE. Mango Smoothie. Let's see, Robert Berger just said, never heard of this one. Dogfish Head is a very unusual brewery. You can look them up online. They've got a lot of very unusual flavors, or whatever you want to call it, styles that they make, and they kind of pride themselves on being outside the box. So they have all kinds of weird ones. I mean, they make some quote unquote regular beers too, but they really do come up with some unique recipes and things like that. But so Mango Smoothie, I gotta tell you, this is pretty dang good. I mean, it's kind of a tart beer. But it's got some fruit in it, obviously mango, but it's got that fruit flavor a little bit. But it's also not like it's not tart, it's not like soury, but it's actually good. So again, the smoothie actually leads itself to the Mango Smoothie title. But it's got 6.5% alcohol by volume. So, it's a little bit higher than normal beers, so be careful with it. Robert Brooker says, read that for me, Sean, while I take a drink of this.
Oh, well, we actually got one from Terry Combs Gerchek. Says, I have heard of it.
Come on, man. That's Combs. She's been correcting people for 50 years.
I'm sorry,
Combs.
I have heard of it. I'm not going to try again. I have heard of it, and John has drank it before. No surprise there, right?
I'm not surprised that I think John had some when I went to their house. He didn't have this one, but he had Dogfish Head. He had some Dogfish Head beer, so I'm not surprised that her husband John has had it. Cool dude, by the way. John's he's a kind of a what do you want to call it? He's similar to you, Smith.
Okay.
He's a musician, but like kind of just does it on the side for fun,
Right.
that type of thing. But
Right.
but a really cool guy. And we went to his house. He actually played a couple of tunes for me that he had written, and really cool. I mean, just some cool stuff. But yeah, so Terry says I've heard of it, and John has drank it before. No surprise there. So yeah, so cheers, John, and cheers to you, Smith. What are you drinking today?
What am I drinking? I am drinking a Pepsi Zero Sugar. It's one of my usuals. It's just
That's a usual. I've never seen you drink that before.
it's Pepsi Zero. I mean, I drink Pepsi Zero, Coke Zero, Dr. Pepper Zero.
I always see you with that big yellow can that says C4.
Oh yeah, yeah. I usually drink those if I'm at home lately.
Yeah, well, you drink them here quite a bit. When at least on Fridays, maybe that's what you got to drink to get to get through the show.
Yeah, well, especially if I'm sleepy. Those are quote unquote energy drinks, but they're like no carbs, no sugar, no calories. It's basically just like niacin and some vitamins, and that's like all that's in it.
Sounds tasty.
You pour it out, it's totally clear. No, I actually really like the taste though. I'm shocked that it tastes as good as it does, and there's like nothing in it. Another thing that I actually really like about those is they don't seem to go flat very quickly. Like you can maybe because there's no carbs and no sugar and all that.
Maybe because there's nothing but chemicals in it.
Dude, this is the weirdest thing. If you ever drink one, like leave just enough at the end to pour it out. It's as clear as water.
Unusual.
I know. It's very unusual.
So your C4 is completely clear.
Yeah.
Robert Brooker talks about he remembers when the Pepsi Clear he remembers Pepsi Clear, and it was actually really good stuff. I remember Pepsi Clear, but I don't think I ever had it. I mean, I guess it was just Pepsi without the caramel coloring. I guess.
I believe I've had it before.
Not really sure what what was in Pepsi Clear, or what. Probably C4. I don't know. Maybe there's C4 in it. Brady Roberts, welcome to the show. He's saying, "I'm drinking my usual." Do you remember what his usual was?
What is Brady's usual?
What's Brady's usual? Brady Roberts, one of our former ninjas.
Mountain Dew, maybe.
Was it Mountain Dew? Brady, I'm not sure what your usual. Or no, maybe it's a big Coke. I know it was a Coke.
You may be correct.
I'm going to guess on Coke. And Brady, if you're still watching, you can comment underneath, what your usual is. I'm not really sure what the usual is.
Fountain drink of some sort.
Yeah, I think it's a Coke. But anyway, so try Dogfish Head Mango Smoothie. It's really good stuff. It's expensive though. The 12 packs where I live here in South Georgia, these are like $12.99 a six pack, and you can't find, or I can't get them. I can't find 12 packs. So you're paying a pretty penny for these puppies. So that's why I told Smith, I'm like, you're not getting one today. I brought him when they're Angry Orchard, those are a little cheaper. So I brought him in one of those because he loved those. But since he's not really a beer drinker, I'm like, nah, I'm not giving you the $2 beer, for you to go, it's okay.
Right.
So, but let's see, Brady, it's a supersized Coke. See, I told you, I win.
Congrats.
I win. So you owe me $100.
Oh,
Smith, that's that's just a given. We don't have to really say it. That's just that's a standard bet. So I win that. Robert Brooker, you are most welcome. Hey, something cool. Since the Cubs aren't really doing very well, but guess when they won the World Series?
2016.
Okay, he is paying attention. I thought maybe he was tuning me out. So he's been paying attention. So 2016, they won the World Series. But so since the Cubs haven't really been doing anything, it brought up a story in baseball. And Smith, I know you're not a big baseball fan, but this is pretty cool. Now, you've seen the movie Field of Dreams, right? With Kevin Costner, where they go and they make the baseball diamond in Iowa. They call it a corn down, and that whole, if you build it, they will come. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
So big movie with Kevin Costner. I love the movie. That's one of my favorites. I've seen it a bunch of times. That's definitely one of those movies that I will watch over and over and over. Came out in 1980. He was in the 80s. I can't remember what year it was, but they actually are having a baseball game, a real professional Major League Baseball game at in Iowa at the Field of Dreams. Which I just think is so cool. So they've actually built it up a little bit, and they're actually going to have the Yankees and the White Sox are going to play there next Thursday at the Field of Dreams. So pretty dang cool, if you ask me. I mean, I just think that's a really neat thing. Robert Brooker comments, a $2 beer, just a memory here. and that rhymes. So Robert is he's a poet, and he probably knows it. You know, he knows everything.
Hey.
Robert is he's a character, man. He's lived a great life and still kicking, still living a great life too. So the Field of Dreams game, that's next Thursday, by the way. And again, the White Sox and the Yankees. But something that was kind of weird, they're wearing the throwback uniforms. Like they made these, special throwback uniforms for when they played in the 1920s or whatever, 1910 or whenever it was they were supposed to play back in the movie. So they're wearing these old uniforms, which is cool. But the White Sox uniforms are completely different. I mean, they're absolutely retro. They don't look like anything at all like the current uniforms. But the Yankees uniforms are so close. I mean, they barely changed. They're kind of gray. They said that the letters on the front that say New York, that the letters were thinner back in the day. So, compared to the current, their regular uniforms. So theirs didn't really change much. And then, the NY that's on their cap, the shape is a little bit different. But I'm telling you, there's no way I couldn't have picked it out. I mean, I'm not a huge Yankee fan. In fact, I really don't like the Yankees very much at all, except that now that they have Anthony Rizzo, who used to be on the Cubs. But am I still a little bitter?
A little salty.
Yeah, a little bit salty, but trying to let that go, trying to let it go. So, but Field of Dreams, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't really talk about movies very much, but Field of Dreams, absolutely a great movie. So go watch that. And then the Field of Dreams game will be on Thursday. It'll be on Fox too. It'll be on regular TV. So you don't have to have like the special channel or whatever, where like the Cubs play on the Marquee Network, but that sucks because you can't get it anywhere. At least I can't get it here. So it'll be on Fox. You'll be able to watch that game. So it's pretty cool. Robert Brooker agrees with me too, that the Field of Dreams is an awesome movie. Smith, what's one of your favorite movies of all time?
One of my favorite movies of all time. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I really liked The Dark Knight. I believe it was the second of the
Batman movie.
Yeah. The second in the trilogy.
Oh yeah,
I love that one.
Wasn't that Christian Bale where he's like, where he talks like that?
Oh, I love it. I love the parodies of it too. Where is she?
I mean,
tell me, Joker.
I was like you. I thought the movie was really good.
Yeah.
Until the people started making fun of it. I didn't really pay much attention to it. Him having the really low, dark voice or whatever. But so then all of a sudden all the jokes and everything came out, started pointing out. So now when I watch it, I can't help it. Now it's the first thing I think of when I start to watch at the beginning, and he does the Batman voice, and I have to laugh. So
it really is. It's one of those silly things where it obviously could have been a voice modulator or something like that, but he was just like, no, I'm just gonna talk like this.
He's like, I'll just do it on my own.
Yeah. I love it.
My mom brings up that the Crosstown Classic is this weekend. Smith, you have any idea what that is?
I have no idea what that is.
Take a guess.
Crosstown Classic. Does that have something to do with movies?
Nope.
Music.
That's 2 strikes.
Theater?
3 strikes, you're out. 3 strikes, you're out.
Oh.
He strikes out. No, you wouldn't know that. Only people from Chicago would know that. The Crosstown Classic is when the Cubs play the White Sox. So they're playing this weekend in a series. Usually it's a lot of fun. However, this year, since the Cubs traded off all their players, it's really not that much fun. But guess what, Smith?
What up?
They won the World Series in 2016. I'm just saying, that they did win that. Going back to the movies, Robert Brooker, what does he say?
There was The Empire Strikes Back. My friend and I spent all his savings going downtown to see it at the University Theater, and the only 2-floor theater left way back in the day for 4 days in a row. The last day was Benji, and we were sorry we did that.
All right, can you explain that one?
I'm a little confused about the ending part.
And we were sorry we did that. Okay. I'll just say, okay.
I don't know if there was a typo on Benji or if there's just something lost in translation. I know what Empire Strikes Back is, obviously Star Wars movie.
Yes. Yeah, perhaps lost in translation. Oh, we're okay. We were sorry we watched Benji.
Okay.
I could see being sorry that you went to the movie theater to go see Benji. I mean, I know everybody, loved the dog, but I mean, come on. I mean, why would you go to pay for that at the movie theater? It really wasn't a big deal. You remember the first movie? Remember the first movie that you saw at the movie theater?
The first movie I'm really not sure. It's a hard one.
Do you recall one of your first movies that you saw at the movie theater?
The oldest ones that come to mind right off the bat are the older Fast and the Furious movies, and there was like a motorcycle type. I know I've seen something older than that, but
No, I just have to laugh because we have such an age gap. He's talking about the first movie that he saw at the movie theater was
I know,
the Fast and the Furious. I'm like, wow, am I old?
I highly doubt that's the first one, but that's the earliest one I can seem to recall.
I recall going to the first movie that I saw. It was a John Wayne movie. See, so that tells you how old it was. It was The Cowboys. The movie was called The Cowboys with John Wayne in it. I think that was my first movie that I went to. And then after that one, like that one had a big impact, I guess, because it was the first movie. And then after that, I don't really, there wasn't a lot of them that were memorable, except for the first Star Wars, the very first Star Wars movie. I think that was the first one that I went like without my parents. Like I went and saw it with my friends, so like we went to the movie theater and saw Star Wars with my friends. So that was my first, regular movie, with your buddies, where you, and I mean, I was, I think 10 or 9 or something. I don't remember what year the first Star Wars came out. I think it was 77. So I would have been 10. So long before you were even a thought.
Yeah, I feel like my first version of that was probably when we went and saw Transformers in 3D for the first time. we did funny enough end up going back. Remember they were re-showing like the updated version of Star Wars episode, I believe it was episode 4.
I have never, I haven't seen them all. I'll be honest, I haven't seen them all. I've seen a few of them, of the newer ones, and they're okay. I don't, they just lose something for me. I guess I'm trying to have them compete with when I was a kid, and it's just not the same. So, to me, they just lose something. Maybe it's just the whole spectacle of when you're a kid, you're going to the movie theater. It's such a big deal, that kind of thing. And for that time period, of course, the effects in Star Wars were pretty cool back, for that time. Now you watch it today, like people like you, and you're like, this sucks.
Is that a Muppet?
Yeah, you're like, what the? I can see the strings, stuff like that. So, but it was pretty amazing when I was a kid. That was like, top of the line effects that were available then. Robert Brooker talks about Lost in Translation, the movie. Now have you seen that one with Bill Murray?
I think I have.
It's an unusual movie, but it is good. It is a cool movie, so I'll give him that. And then he also says, "As Good as It Gets." That was the last movie that made me laugh out loud. Seeing the granny and grandpa underwear flying through the air. As Good as It Gets. That was with Jack Nicholson and what was the lady's name that was in the movie? I think it was Helen Hunt was in As Good as It Gets. I think that's the one, right? Helen Hunt? Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
That was a really good movie. So, when did that come out? You just had that pulled up. When did that come out?
That was 1997.
Robert Brooker, you and I are really old. So, that was how many, and he agrees. He's like, yep, we are. We are really, really old. Speaking of, by the way, being old, I realized, there's certain things that happen to you. Smith, I know this has not happened to you yet. You have quite a ways before this kind of stuff happens to you. But I'll let you kind of fill in the blank a little bit before I tell my story. What is something that you would assume, all right, something that would happen to you that kind of lets you know that, okay, you're getting a little bit older? What's like kind of a stereotype, if you will? What's something that in your head?
A stereotype. I guess the thing that I always hear is hurting yourself sleeping wrong.
I've done that.
Oh, no.
I've done that. Well, yesterday, and it's I'm left-handed, so it's this arm. Okay, I know it's your, what is that, screen right? I think it is, but it's my left hand.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm left-handed, but I gotta tell you, yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to use my right arm because my left arm hurts. so I'm going to use my right arm as kind of the example. So yesterday, right, I'm stretching. And I'm just kind of like, it was in the morning and I'm kind of stretching, and like, my arms weren't way up, like they were about here. Okay. Right. But I was doing both arms. And like I said, I'm not pulling the other one up. It hurts. So I'm doing like both arms stretching, right? I'm kind of stretching. and then I yawn. Okay. At the same time. And this muscle here, like my neck down into my shoulder, just pulled. And now it's really sore. So I'm like, good Lord, when you pull something when you're yawning, I think that's a telltale sign that, yeah, you've reached the back half of your life. Pretty sure of that. So, wow. Yeah, that was just, man. And like I said, it's sore, man. It just pulled. So like my neck, if I turn like further than here, it starts to pull right there. When I go like this, it starts to pull. So yeah, it sucks getting old. That's what I'm saying. So there are a few things. Robert Brooker, he even said, "Ow, I can feel that." He knows what I'm talking about. He's talking about also workouts back in the day in his workout days, waking up and needing to pee with calf cramps. Now, I guess maybe because I don't work out, so I haven't had the calf cramps. So, Robert, you're on your own on that one. But yeah, those are just a couple of things when you're getting. Also, of course, being forgetful. That's kind of a stereotype, oh, the old person, they forgot, they walk in the room, forget what they're there for, stuff like that.
Well, I do that. So.
And I was just going to say, I'm like, but I don't really think that that's necessarily for just the older, because there seems to be more and more people.
Well, I think, especially now that we're more and more distracted moment to moment, it's very easy to do.
What were you saying? I was kind of distracted.
Well, I will do this. Like I'm walking to the kitchen to get something, but I'm like half paying attention to this mobile game or whatever. And I'm paying more attention to, what multi-battle I'm on than what I came to the kitchen for.
Right.
And I walk back to my room
now,
30 seconds later.
I absolutely do agree with you that, yeah, this thing right here, major distraction. Major distraction. Where you do, I agree with you. You'd be like walking with your phone, looking at something or whatever, and you get like halfway there and you're like, I don't even know what I even got up for. I don't even know where I'm going. I don't know what room I'm going into. I have no idea. But I do know, hey, so-and-so just posted blah, blah, blah on Facebook.
Right.
You like see that kind of stuff. My mom, she says that a telltale sign that you're getting old is when the grandkids can beat you at Scrabble. And I got to tell you, when I was younger, like when I was a kid, my mom ruled in Scrabble. She was really good at it. And then as we got older, excuse me, then it became a little more fair. Because obviously, like I can kick an 8-year-old's butt in Scrabble, right now. But she was good at it because even in high school, she would beat me quite a bit. And then I finally got to where I could start to win, start to beat her. But yeah, Scrabble's like a big deal in my family. I have to admit, it's pretty serious now. We do take that stuff serious. And the person who wins, you get bragging rights. You can just like point fingers and call them names. And it's fun. Scrabble's been in my family one of our traditions, if you will, for a long time, and it really is a good time. And we have passed that on down to my nieces and nephews and my grandchildren and stuff like that. So they're kind of aware of that. Is there a board game that was kind of a big thing for you, Smith?
I do really like Scrabble. We used to play a lot of the obvious stuff like checkers, Connect Four. What was one that was a little more unusual? No, we would play. What was the doctor one where you would accidentally
Operation?
Yeah, Operation.
Yeah,
we played that one a decent bit.
Yeah. Now, by the way, is Connect Four considered a board game?
Oh, it's a good question.
I don't think that's
really
a board
on a board.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think it's a game. It's definitely a game.
It's true.
But I don't think it's a board game. Just those are kind of the weird things that I think about.
You got me there.
What about Monopoly? Did you play that when you were a kid?
A little bit, just with friends. Never played that one like amongst the family.
Monopoly, I have to admit, now they have like all these different versions. Because like when I was a kid, way a long time ago, to my knowledge at least, there was only one. It was just Monopoly. That was all. That was the only one. And then probably I think it was like maybe the 80s. In the 80s, they started coming out with all these specialty versions. And, I actually got for a Christmas present, I got a Chicago version of Monopoly. So instead of the normal, the normal properties, like the Boardwalk and, Marvin Gardens and all those ones that come on the regular board, they're all of the Chicago versions, all these landmarks and properties and things like that were from Chicago. Yeah. So kind of an unusual thing, but I do love the fact that they came out with a kids version. It's like Monopoly Junior or Monopoly Kids or something like that. So that I really like because my grandkids, they like to play Monopoly. And if you try to play regular Monopoly with little kids, it sucks. I'm just being honest. I mean, they don't get it. They don't understand it. I mean, so you're trying, and then you have that whole war of like, do you kick the crap out of your grandkid, when you're playing the game? I'm like, do you just like take all their money, bankrupt them and be like, ha ha, I win, I'm the ruler? Or do you try to play nice? They're your grandkids. So then you're like, oh no, here, let me give this to you, blah, blah, blah. So with the junior, it's much faster. So the game doesn't take near as long. So I highly recommend if you've got small kids or grandkids, the Monopoly Junior. That's the way to go if you like that board game. But Scrabble, there's a is it Scrabble Junior or is it Kids Scrabble? It's one of those, but they have one of those for kids too, where they do that. So I mean, there's some different. Is it called Scrabble Junior?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some board games, things like that. Robert Brooker talks about that he remember playing some gambling game and was dealt a royal flush, but he was unable to hide his excitement. But my uncle thought I was bluffing. He got so mad when he won the hand. He thinks it was called Back Alley. Only Robert Brooker would play a game called Back Alley.
Back Alley.
I don't recall a game called Back Alley. I mean, if this was a game for kids and it's called Back Alley, there's something wrong.
Sounds creepy.
Now, read, what does he say? If you don't know Back Alley, what?
If you don't know Back Alley, it's a fun card game. You play with 2 decks of cards, dealt 12 cards first hand, then you go down to 1, then back up to 12, and you bid on how many tricks you can take each hand. How many tricks you can.
Okay, so it's a card game. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a board game. Because I was going to say, I've never heard of Back Alley. So it's a card game with 2 decks. Yeah, so you're getting into it. That's definitely an adult game. He says it's a fun card game, but when you start doing 2 decks of cards, that's an adult game. And no kids are playing that. If you got to do 2 decks.
True.
One of the games that I absolutely love is when since Robert brought up card games, is euchre. Have you ever even heard of it, Smith?
I have heard of it. I've never played it.
Euchre, love it. I kind of thought it was like a northern game, because a lot of the people when I moved south had never even heard of it, let alone know how to play it or understand it. Have you heard of Pinochle?
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Okay, all right, good. Well, because oddly enough, there were some older people when I moved south in '98. There were some older people that knew how to play the card game Pinochle. So I didn't know how to play that. I'd heard of it, but I didn't know how to play Pinochle. But euchre was actually similar, is what I was told. It was similar to Pinochle, but euchre, was definitely that takes me way back to my high school days. Euchre was so much fun. We used to play euchre all the time on the weekends. We'd go to parties and we'd have euchre tournaments and all that kind of stuff. It's just a really, really fun game. We still play that when I go up north. And I play euchre with my family, with a few of my friends, stuff like that. And we pass that on down to our kids and grandkids and all kind of stuff playing those. Robert Brooker talking about he loved to play cards with his grandma. Robert, besides Back Alley that nobody seems to know anything about, what other card games did you play with your grandmother? By the way, he did say it is strategic, and he was a little smart ass as a kid. Imagine that.
Shocking.
Me, no, I was never that way. Never that way. But yeah, so card games. Were there any card games? Oh, Rummy. Yeah, that was. Did you ever play Rummy?
Yeah, that one was fun.
Yeah, that is a fun game. I used to play Rummy with my mom, and most of the time I'd win at Rummy. I was pretty good at Rummy because I didn't learn how to play it until I was in high school. So I mean, but Scrabble, she kicked my butt when I was 8. Hope that made you feel good, Mom. By the way, beating your 8-year-old son. No, but don't worry, I got her back. Because man, as soon as I hit like 20, oh man, I was on fire with Scrabble. I mean, I could roll. But Rummy was absolutely a lot of fun. But were there any other card games as a kid that you remember playing when you were a kid, Smith?
I mean, mostly just blackjack and Uno. We played.
You played blackjack as a kid?
We always called it hopefully
21.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. We always called it 21. We also played a lot of Uno. We played there was another
Uno. Okay, yeah, Uno was a good one.
Yeah.
I have to admit. By the way, just recently I went to Jacksonville to see my grandkids, and they have all these different Uno version games too.
Oh yeah.
Now, there's like I want to say it's either speed, it's either like speed Uno or fast Uno, or it's got a little it's like a plastic container that holds the cards. And like you have to push the button and it spits out cards at you.
Oh,
so I don't know what it's called.
I may have seen that before.
Yeah, and I'm like, really? I mean, it was bad enough when you have to draw the cards by hand. You have to draw and draw and draw and draw. You get like 7, 8, 9, 10 cards. It's like that. But when they shoot at you, like they like actually shoot out at you. I'm like, well, that's just rude. I mean, that's just a rough game.
I tell you, another one we used to always play was Go Fish.
Oh yeah, that was that was one
obvious.
I think one that I think my sister Janet, I think she was the one who taught me. Maybe even my sister Barb, I can't remember. But I do remember playing as a kid Crazy Eights. Did you ever play that?
Sounds very familiar.
I remember playing Crazy Eights. That was a pretty fun game. And the other was Kings in a Corner. I remember that game too. Remember that game?
I remember that one, no.
Yeah, of course it was all electronic by the time you were born. You're like, cards. What are cards? I don't know what that is.
That's not totally true. One card game that I do love. I hope I'm remembering this correctly. More modern, adult, obviously. Once you hear it, it's called Cards Against Humanity.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, you've heard of this one. Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely not a kid's game.
so essentially, if I remember correctly, you'll get to draw cards, and you'll end up with a card for like a situation, and then a card to fill in the blank of the situation.
Right.
And then you sort of anonymize your choice, and then you all vote on who had the funniest version.
Is that a word? Anonymize?
I'm not sure.
Is that a word?
I may have just made that up.
Smith's making words up. I think that's a made up word.
Let's find out.
Anonymize. By the way, while you're looking that up, Terry, one of the girls that I went to high school that you called her Combs. Oh man, I can't believe you. I can't believe you went there. She's probably so tired of hearing that. Probably glad she got married and changed her name to Gerchek. But Terry Comis Gerchek. She said, "Kings in a Corner." I haven't heard that game in forever. That was a really fun game when we were kids. I think the last time I played Kings in a Corner, I was probably, I probably played in my 30s. I played with kids, stuff like that. Robert Brooker talked about pretending you're Izzy is the game of that program. Robert's throwing me off again. He's throwing me off again. Your Izzy, that is. Not.
I have no clue.
Lost in translation again there, Robert.
He said something about we used to play Cards Against Humanity in Google Hangouts.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if that has something to do
with Google Hangouts. So much fun. Okay. So, I get it now. That's the thing. My mom, I said this last week or the week before, where my mom said that I talk too quickly. I'm changing subjects too quickly. So by the time she gets to actually comment, I've already moved on, to something else. So I said, I'm like, well, you got to speed up, Mom. You got to get quicker. But it was last week, wasn't it? That I did where I said, okay. And I slowed down, kind of made fun of her a little bit, but yeah, I'm kind of on a roll today. Cause it's Feel Good Friday. I don't want to slow down. It's like, it rolls. It's fun. It's good times, all that kind of stuff. Hey, let's move on to our classic rock revisit. The classic rock revisit. This was back in 1985. This was the year that I graduated. I know Smith was going, God, he is old. This is the year I graduated high school in 1985, and Night Ranger was the name of the band. And Night Ranger was huge at that time in 85. Now, they had Sister Christian, the song Sister Christian. That's not on this album, but they had that song earlier back in 83, I believe it was, off their Midnight Madness album. So they came out with 7 Wishes, and the record label, it was kind of funny. I watched their behind the music documentary on YouTube, and the record company, after they released after they released Sister Christian, the record company just thought they were kind of like a ballad band, which sucks because they're really not. I mean, if you ever go see them live, and they still play, they're still doing really well. They're on tour all the time, except for, of course, when COVID was going on.
This is the same band that done Still Rockin' America, right?
Yeah, it's the one. Yeah. That's the one. Hey, look at Smith picking up on this stuff. All right. I'm liking this. So 7 Wishes came out in 85, and it's a really, really strong album. I mean, like as a whole, I really do. There's not a bad song on here. I love this song. This album. I would listen to every song. I would just play the whole. I had it on cassette originally, and then I flipped it over to CD as well, and I would literally just play it over and over. I mean, it never, like a lot of times when CDs came out, that's when people started to skip. They're skipping tracks and all that kind of stuff. But I used to just listen to this all the time, over and over and over. And they released Sentimental Street, which is basically, it's almost a carbon copy of Sister Christian. I mean, it's a ballad. It's got, the hard rock riff, or not the hard rock, the strong rock riff in it, but it's a power ballad. I mean, that's exactly what it is. So they kind of fell into this trap, if you will, of being a ballad band. And if you saw them live, they were anything but. I mean, they were really, really good. Brad Gillis, their guitar player, is fantastic. I mean, he's a really good guitar player. So when this album came out, Seven Wishes is the name of it, back in 1985. Even though a lot of people were still thinking they were a ballad band, there were plenty of people that discovered them in concert and realized, oh my gosh, if you went to go see them, like if you were a girl that went to see them, thinking it was going to be like all this soft ballad, or what did you call it last week? Remember, no, you couldn't think of a soft rock band. That's what it was. And then, yeah, that's right. And then I was told that it's called a yacht rock now. Yacht rock. Huh. So like soft rock is now called a yacht rock. That's kind of the thing. But so when this thing came out, if you were a girl or a guy that went to go see them thinking they were one of those soft rock bands, yacht rock, whatever they want to call it now, you were sorely mistaken, because they really rocked hard and they were a really good live band. And so they had Sentimental Street, which was a ballad. The record label made them put out the song Goodbye, which is yet another ballad. And they're good songs. I mean, they're well-written songs, but it was just kind of sad because they kept pushing them into this ballad, this power ballad stuff. They were able to release 4 in the Morning, and that was a pretty, I think it was top 20. It didn't go to, wasn't in the top 5 by any stretch, but it was still a good song. But the whole album, is my point, is the entire album is really good. And a couple of tunes, Smith, I know you've probably never heard of this album. You mentioned that you'd heard of You Can Still Rock in America, but I'm telling you, Interstate Love Affair, that's the best song on the album. As far as if you like what's on the rate, like songs that you think are radio playable. I mean, that has hit written all over it. They never released it because they kept making them do ballads, which was irritating. And then This Boy Needs to Rock was a really good song they played live. And then the one, Smith, he's a musician, so I want him to check this out, because you don't really find too many songs that are where the bass actually stands out. Right. I'm not talking about the bass drum now. I'm talking about the actual bass guitar. And so there's a song in there called I Need a Woman that has this just cool bass part in it. Jack Blades, who's he's the lead singer, or the co-lead singer, if you will, because their drummer sings a lot of songs too. But Jack Blades, he's always the guy in the middle, like on stage. So he is kind of their lead singer. So he also plays bass. And so he wrote this song and performed it, just a super good live band. These guys are fantastic. But check out, if you want a really good, and by the way, this is not, this isn't Led Zeppelin. All right. So if somebody's like, oh, Night Ranger, wimp rock, blah, 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 I'm like, they are pop rock. They're absolute pop rock. I mean, there's a couple of tunes on here where there's some pretty mean guitar solos, but by and large, they are very melodic. I mean, they write songs, really well. They have a lot of melody and a lot of harmonies when they play. By the way, when you see them live, they still sound great. I saw them a couple years ago, just like 3 years ago, and they still sound fantastic. Their vocal harmonies are just, they're spot on. So they do a really good job. But so please, Smith, do me a favor and listen to Night Ranger 7 Wishes. Okay. I'm telling you, some really good songs on there that still, in my opinion, still kind of transcend. So let's go back to some comments. Robert Brooker talking about Bryan Adams. That name takes me back. It Cuts Like a Knife. Fantastic album. That's a great album. Cuts Like a Knife. I know yes. Bryan Adams is actually one of the artists that Smith talks about that you actually really like.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of their like Hal Leonard guitar collection books at home. This is some of the first stuff that I learned guitar from.
Mm-hmm.
I really like them. I know I made the soft rock comment, but I love Bryan Adams.
Bryan Adams is really good. When I saw him in concert, I saw him a long time ago, like in '86, I think it was, when he was huge. I mean, the Reckless album came out and he was really, really popular. So I saw him in his, early heyday, if you will. Then I saw him just a couple of years ago. I think it was 2018 when I saw him. And I have to say he was better. He was better when I saw him in 2018 because he had a much bigger catalog. So I mean, it was truly like he didn't play one song I didn't know. Like literally, he played for 2 hours. And he has that many songs.
I've never seen them live, but he's definitely one of those bands where I'll watch like the Live at the Budokan DVD or whatever, and they'll play a song that didn't really hit me that hard on the album, and for some reason the live energy still gets to me.
Yes,
it's definitely one of those bands.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. I mean, Bryan Adams, he has, him being the, I mean, they're just called Bryan Adams. They're not called like Bryan Adams and the Heartbreakers, like Tom Petty. But his band was really, I mean, they were really tight. Really good live show. So they put on a really good show. And so does Night Ranger. So again, going back to the Classic Rock Revisit, Night Ranger, really good live band. And also want to throw this in before I go to some other comments, is that Night Ranger, when I said that they're still putting out records or, albums or whatever you want to call it now, still putting out new music, they actually have a brand new album released today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Today, 40 years later. I mean, they've been a band for 40 years. Pretty dang amazing. But they have a new album. It's the acronym for "And the Band Plays On." So whatever those letters are, I'm not gonna try and figure that out. But it's the acronym for "And the Band Plays On." But I listened to the new album this morning, and I have to say, it sounds. Because I'm being honest. I mean, I'm not Night Ranger's not paying me to do this, so I'm not being, I'm not sucking up. It felt a little dated. I'll say that. I mean, the album felt a little bit dated, and maybe they meant to do that. Maybe they wanted to kind of sound like their, back in the day, their heyday, whatever you want to call it. But the one thing I'll give them is production has always been really good on Night Ranger albums. I mean, the mix is always just, clear. Spot on. It doesn't sound fake. In other words, it's not overly produced.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It almost sounds like they recorded it live. I mean, it's very fresh.
It's funny. Something that is a big thing in the internet culture of music, and something I like to do to a lot of my music these days, is to make it sound dated. We add like vinyl crackle. We'll put like old school tape compressors.
That is kind of a thing, isn't it?
Sort of high pass it, get rid of a little bit of that really crisp high end so that it sounds a little more dated. Maybe get rid of a little bit of that sub bass. And a lot of that is to try to get that nostalgic feeling from the music.
Right. And, it's funny that you look at like people your age or even younger, you're what? You're 29, 28, 29?
28. Yes.
28. I'm looking at him. He's like, hey, I'm not 29. I'm 28. Trying to make me sound old.
Even older.
So Smith's 28. And even people that are, literally half your age, that are discovering some of these classic rock bands and things like that. To me, it's always been cool. That's why I wanted to do the Classic Rock Revisit, because I think that a lot of these albums are very worthy. They really do kind of transcend, generations, that, they still hold up. They're still really good music. And even though, you and I pick fun, I poke fun and I pick on Smith a lot about certain types of music he talks about. And I'm like, can you please be a little more mainstream? Can you please do that? He comes up with all these off the wall genres, but I still, I love the fact that music is an art form. I've said that before. I'll say it again, at some point, and I'm saying it right now. I love the fact that music is an art form. So there is no right or wrong. It's not, oh, that is a good song or that is a bad song. It's completely in the individual, that's listening to it, whether they like it or not. So, I love that. I love that part about music. There's certainly, when they call it popular music, that's how they came up with pop music, short for popular. There's certain songs that are kind of, they're just hooky and they grab a large mass amount of people, stuff like that. And so I would consider myself, I'm in the pop, I'm much more in the popular genre than in the off, kind of off center or weird or unusual types of things, especially when I was growing up. Because again, there, you didn't have like you can go online. Where when you were born, you could literally go on YouTube and you could discover. Name me what's one of those weird genres that you talk about.
Well, psytrance.
Okay, psytrance. All right, so there wasn't even such a word, let alone being able to find it when I was a kid. So psytrance is one of them, where now that's just, that's a subgenre, whatever the heck they call it.
It's like a subgenre of electronic dance music.
So, you can find that online now, but back in the day, it was like, you couldn't find that. The only music that you really knew, unless you were very rich and you were able to just buy whatever music you wanted to at any point in time, most of it you only found on the radio or on MTV. So it was MTV when they played music videos. That was really the music that you discovered, was the music that was fed to you, basically. Like I said, you might buy an album and you discover other songs by an artist, but you bought the album because you knew there was a song in there you liked. So it's kind of an interesting take. Scroll up a little bit, if you will, Smith on Robert's he's been just, comment. He's been rolling. And as we've been talking back and forth, so read a few of those for me.
All right. Booker says, I remembered when Sony released a Walkman dedicated to reproducing the sound of the phonetically spelled Budokan. He's correcting me. He's subtly correcting me. Budokan Theater.
That's hilarious that he spelled it like that. Budokan.
You see, we also got one from Kim Ledbetter up here. Says The Doors, Moody Blues, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, and many more. Late 60s and early 70s.
That really is some good stuff. I will say that the Doors, even though I can say that I like the Doors, they are absolutely, and this is my opinion, they are absolutely an unusual band.
Yes, that's the word.
Obviously they were under a lot of influence. They took a lot of drugs. They were very psychedelic. That kind of thing. So some of the songs that I think that the Doors put out were absolute masterpieces, and other ones were a master mess. Moody Blues, again, they were they weren't near as psychedelic. They were a little more progressive, I guess is what they would consider it back then. Zeppelin, of course, one of the greatest rock bands ever. Just, so talented, so diverse. And Jimi Hendrix, it's tough to top him as a guitarist. A lot of people think he's the best guitarist that was ever born. So, but again, there was a lot of drug influence in those days. Like it or not, that's what happened. And some people, that's been the argument. Some people will say, oh, I'm a little more artistic under the influence. They're like, oh, it just takes the edge off. It, kind of expands my mind, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And other people, then you'll hear about bands like Aerosmith, for example, who had like major drug problems,
right.
and they were popular in the 70s. They had lots of hits, but then when they got clean, as they called it, or off drugs, and the clarity came in, and they were like, oh my gosh, we're even better now, that we're not on drugs. So it's been kind of an argument, all along, under the influence, not under the influence, which is better, which is not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you should or shouldn't.
Yeah, no, me neither. I do think the one argument that has made sense for me in the pro, for some only, obviously, but it is that it will sort of squish those inhibitions that tell you to, write within.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Within the constraints that you've been told to. Because, the most beautiful thing about music to me is you've got all this theory and it's really helpful, but if it sounds good, it is good. That is the most important rule.
And the thing about it is, again, even with all the influence, now I have to say I'm not a huge Grateful Dead fan.
Right.
But look how many people were and still are. But you look at, I will say, I really like Pink Floyd. Yeah. I really like Pink Floyd. And you absolutely have to admit, oh, they were on something.
Oh yeah.
It's way, way out there, so there are bands like that. And like I said, there's some Doors songs where I'm just kind of like, it was just complete brilliance. To me, I was like, this is incredible how they came up with that. And in fact, the question, a lot of times people say, how did they come up with that? Drugs. They came up with it with drugs, that type of thing. And that's just, that's what happened with a lot of the sounds. Hey, welcome Guy Stevens to the show. He said, Paul, did you ever buy a 45 and like the song on the B side more than the A side? Happened with me frequently. I don't know if I liked it more, but I would certainly say that I liked it. Typically, and some people kind of rip on me about this. They'll say, oh, if I play a song over and over and over, that eventually you'll like it. And I have to say, if I'm exposed to music, it does tend to kind of grow on me.
Repetition legitimizes.
So it tends to grow on me rather than rub against me, if you will, or where I don't like it. But I don't know if I've ever liked the B side better than the A side. Not that I can remember, at least. I remember buying, the 45 records. Did you know what he meant when he said 45? You didn't.
I knew he was talking about a record, but I did not know the particulars.
Smith. Well, Guy Stevens, he's a couple years younger than me, but he's still way older than you. So the 45 was the small single record, so it had the one song on one side, flip it over, and had the one side on the other, to do that. So, but I can't remember, like I said, if there was one that I like better than the A side, but there were lots of them where I'd flip it because you had it, you could listen to it. So you'd like the song, and you'd be like, hey, this is really cool. This is a really cool song to do that. I mean, that to me, I guess would be similar to when I would buy an album and because this happened quite a bit. I would buy an album for a specific single that was on the album. And then I'd find a song that I like better than the single, or I think where I was like, oh, this is a way better song. Similar to like when I was talking about Night Ranger, where I said Interstate Love Affair. To me, that was the best song on the record. As far as like, that was, to me, if they would have released that, that was a hit, in my opinion. And not that I didn't like the other singles that they released, but then most of them were ballads. And I was looking for something a little more up-tempo, a little more rocking, that type of thing. Kim Ledbetter, thank you, by the way, for your comment, Kim and Guy and Robert. Robert talking about that is how the Thompson twins grew on me. He said, a friend gave me an album. And it is. It's kind of, if you have an open mind and you'll listen to some things, again, even though something that maybe you didn't really care for at the very beginning, you kind of, you listen to it, and sometimes it does kind of grow on you. Other times you hear it differently. You can actually, like you may listen to it the first time and you don't want to listen to it. Like I remember my friend Jim Roderick that I went to high school with, him and I had completely different, I talked about him before, where we would go to the bar and, with a jukebox, and he would want, he'd want to play like Elvis Costello and I think it was John Thompson. I think it was. I think that was the guy that was Depeche Mode. I mean, he had those kind of where I was much more in the pop genre, the rock and the pop. But there were bands like Elvis Costello. I didn't like him when my friend Jim would play it. I didn't like him at all. I'm like, this is lame. But then I would listen to it again, and I would hear certain things that I didn't hear the first time. Then I would hear certain, like the songwriting and things like that. So, I agree with Robert that, if you just, things that grow on you, if you listen to it over and over. Thompson Twins, they were they were an 80s, they were a pop band. I mean, a lot of synthesizer, and there was guitars in there too, but definitely a lot of synthesizer. Guy Stevens says, Iron Butterflies In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida was actually titled In the Garden of Eden, but he was so effed up that he couldn't announce it. I did know that story, by the way. It is funny. Because are you even aware of that song?
I did not know.
But do you know the song?
That sounds familiar,
okay.
But
Iron Butterfly. Sure. This was in like I want to say it was the early 70s when In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida came out. But it's a super long song. Like the album, the actual song is like, I want to say 18 minutes. It's really long. Just that one song is a trip. And then they actually released a single version that was like 3.5 minutes. That is ridiculous. When you listen to the full length album and then you listen to the 3.5 minute, you're just kind of like, this is so stupid, that they came out with this 3.5 version. But, that's what they had to do. But so it was actually called In the Garden of Eden, baby, was the actual line. But the guy was on so many drugs that it was, In the Garden of Eden, baby. So it was kind of like that. So that was my really bad impression of Iron Butterflies In the Garden of Eden that turned into In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, and it turned into an absolute classic. We could talk about music for days. I absolutely love it. Love music. Clint Boseman, by the way, said, alive or dead, who would I love to see live? Let's see, alive or dead, who would I love to see live? Probably, the Beatles.
Beatles? Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those where it's like, I know it's kind of the standard answer. The Beatles, just because you can't. So, you kind of, you kind of look at it and you go, well, if you had the opportunity, I guess you'd go see the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin, with their original drummer. That would be, that would be a big one to, to go see. Even Elvis. I have to admit, now I don't want like, out of shape, 70s with the jumpsuit Elvis. I want to go see like the cool Elvis. I want to see him like when he was young and hip, and I mean, so I would go see Elvis. I think that'd be a really good one. And then Guy says also, getting back to your drugs, no drugs argument, would the song have been as popular if he'd been straight and pronounced it correctly? Probably not. Probably not. But my mom also, my mom's already logging off. She's like, yeah, Trivia show. See you. Have a great weekend. She's like, shut up. I've heard enough. But that does about wrap up the show. So we'll take my mom's cue on that. Thanks for joining the show, by the way. You can listen to it or watch it, if you will, on demand. You can share it with your other friends if you would like to do that. Feel Good Friday, Billy W. Merritt presents. We do it every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. Remember, if you're going to be drinking this weekend or anytime, make sure that you're not driving. Make sure that you use a designated driver. We'll see you next Friday. Have a great weekend. See you.